Thank you so much, everyone, for logging in before time. We really appreciate your timeliness. We're going to wait for a couple of minutes for more guests to join in, and then we will begin shortly. Well, a very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Glevina Matthias, and I'm going to be your host for today. I take this opportunity to welcome each one of you on behalf of Dun&Bradstreet in association with Tata Communications and Cisco. Thank you so much for joining this live webinar. Our topic of discussion for today is how to leverage managed Wi Fi solutions for enterprises with end to end service management. Before we begin, I'd like to request everyone to please take a moment and go through the guidelines that have been displayed on your screen. Make sure to use your headphones or earphones for better sound clarity. Ensure that you are present in a good network area for a seamless experience. We encourage you to ask more questions during the session, so please type in and send it in the Q&A section, which you shall find at the right-hand side bottom of your screen. The questions that you type in and send will be taken up in the Q&A session that is scheduled later. A couple of tips. We want to know you better. Hence, make sure to introduce yourself and mention your company name when you post your question. You can also mention the person that you are directing the question to. And at any point in time, you may use the chat option to express your point of view. Let us now proceed ahead and take a quick look at the flow of events for today's session, which is just displayed on your screen. A promising agenda with a fantastic lineup of speakers. We have with us Mr. Jamsheed Sukhadwala and Mr. George Dorsey, who will be sharing their insights with us today. Thereafter, we shall take in all your queries and questions that you have in the Q&A session. Thank you once again, everyone, for being a part of this virtual session. We look forward to your wholehearted participation. And now, without much ado, let me introduce you all to our first speaker for this session, a remarkable leader and an eminent speaker. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jamsheed Sukhadwala, AVP Product Management, Tata Communication Limited. A very warm welcome, Mr. Jamsheed Sukhadwala.
Thank you, Glevina, and greetings and good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon, where we look forward to sharing some insights with you, as well as getting some feedback, questions, and happy to make this session to be a bit more interactive in nature. Uh, is my screen visible now? All right. So the pandemic has hit us, and it has been something wherein we have changed our way of working. We've looked at moving from working from offices to working at home. That has essentially, over the past 1.5 years, forced enterprises to change the way they work, moving adoption of enterprise applications getting into the cloud space, as well as for them to move to remote worker-based solutions. And therefore, if you would have seen that there has been a natural evolution that has taken place with respect to the way we work. The demand for mobility-based applications, public cloud applications has been widespread. However, now, fortunately, with the pandemic coming under control, it's back to where we are returning to preparations for returning back to office. And that's where we wanted to now focus on with respect to how technology can potentially help us in the way we carry out businesses as we move back to and return to our offices. At the center of this is the wireless workplace, which is going to play a very crucial role at the heart of the productivity. And what we wanted to at Tata Communications and Cisco jointly together provide to you is on insights, applications, and how wireless networking could potentially act as use cases for end business applications. So broadly speaking, if we look at in terms of what are the next generation Wi-Fi, requirements that enterprises have, uh, typically if we go to see and in terms of the kind of scale and the deployment architecture that today Wi-Fi networks are moving, we have already seen the adoption of SD-WAN taking place on the WAN side, where policy managed solutions are being deployed across multi-geography locations in enterprises. What we see is that similar trends are coming into the office environment, into the enterprises environment, where they would want to have a very customized deployment architecture, which would cater to the individual needs of the users that are in the complete IT setup within the enterprises. Now, the deployment scenarios could be both indoor, outdoor. It could be in an office space. It could be a campus solution. It could be multi-story enterprises, retail shops, banks, hospitality solutions. With all of these varied use cases comes a different deployment architecture. What the next generation wireless technologies are aiming to look at is how do we address these wide and varied requirements through the deployment of cloud managed Wi-Fi 6 architecture. In terms of consistent user experience, that is another use case which comes as very, very crucial. As the density of users, density of devices and connected devices keep increasing in the workspace environment, be it in a retail outlet, be it in a mall, be it in your office space or in the campus, it is very essential that the user experience remains consistent and there is no degradation in service quality that is taking place. The other area that comes into play is when you're managing larger and complex setups. And that is where you're moving into the domains of factories, which have extremely complex deployments to be carried out because there are machineries, connected machineries, Industry 4.0 applications which come into play, where we need to ensure that there is ubiquitous wireless coverage taking place. With so much of information that is passing through our networks day in and day out, data security definitely is one of the most important factors. And while we focus on data security on the WAN space, it is also crucial that we have data security practices in place for the LAN environment and the wireless environment that we have. And more and most importantly is that we need to have a network which is future ready. We are seeing that more so ever in enterprises, more and more higher bandwidth applications are coming into place. Applications on augmented reality, virtual reality, be it in the retail space, be it in the manufacturing space, as well as applications like IoT, make it very important that the networks that we are deploying are able to cater to the kind of varied traffic profiles that one would expect to see. And therefore, it makes it very essential for us to create a network and a network platform more so ever, which is flexible, scalable, and future ready for managing such kind of applications. So coming to Wi-Fi 6, and just to spend a moment with respect to what Wi-Fi 6 is all about, and we have been hearing about Wi-Fi 6 in the recent times. Wi-Fi 6 is a new protocol that is being followed, which has some very, very important and crucial technology benefits. First and foremost is the resource utilization. Given that more and more devices are getting into the workspace, the entire workspace is becoming more dense. Hence, to ensure that we are able to provide a more consistent user experience across all devices with higher traffic loads taking place, Wi-Fi 6 has a capability where 4 times the amount of device density compared to Wi-Fi 5 can be managed, and hence the focus on improved resource utilization. Secondly, with machine-to-machine applications increasing and sensors and IoTs coming into the workplace, it becomes very crucial to have technologies which support low latency applications, especially when you're talking on 4K, AR, VR kind of applications. It is crucial that we have latencies below 20 milliseconds, and that is where Wi-Fi 6 comes into play. Further, enhanced multi-user performance becomes very crucial for us with quality of service traffic segregation, where we are able to actually slice the network, create different traffic profiles for different kind of users. For example, you could have a particular location where you would have employee traffic running on one network slice, you would have guest Wi-Fi running on the other for your end customers, as well as you would have your machines, your smart displays, your point of sales terminals running on a completely third network. This ensures that we are able to carry out the necessary traffic segregation and ensure that we are able to offer the requisite quality of service required for each of the kind of services being put forward. And most importantly, what we are looking at is the extended range. Extended range is where Wi-Fi 6 with its beamforming technology brings into play, where with lesser number of access points, we are able to provide better coverage and we are able to provide higher throughput, nearly 4 times than that of what Wi-Fi 5 used to provide. So in terms of Wi-Fi, what do we as Tata Communications provide? If you go to see, we provide in terms of 4 key crucial areas of the entire solution. One is the managed services component, where we are focusing on creating a consultation service for you. We understand the workspace that you operate in, and basis that we then actually look at coming out with a solution with respect to heat maps, basis the floor plan designs that are there to come up with the most optimum solution with respect to placement of access points, the sizing of the network that is required to drive it. The next most important thing is the installation and deployment. And that's where we work with along with our partners to ensure that we are able to scale up to the multi-location requirements that you would be having. And finally, once it is up and running is where we would be providing the lifecycle support in terms of the policy management and the entire lifecycle management of this particular service. What you benefit is in terms of lower cost of IT ownership, wherein your IT teams are not heavily loaded with respect to the design, the deployment, and fulfillment, as well as management of it. The dedicated NOC of TCL would help to monitor and support the complete service. The other most important thing is that with the Meraki platform that we are bringing with Cisco, we are able to offer you a cloud managed solution. And the benefit of the cloud managed solution is that it brings you the ability to scale. And you can move from one location to the others in terms of expansion very seamlessly with plug and play applications put into place. And that's where the self-service capability comes into play. The dashboard views that we would be able to provide you would be able to give you a more integrated view with respect to both the LAN and WAN deployments across your entire enterprise footprint. Further, with respect to plug and play applications, zero touch provisioning, it makes your time to go RFS much faster. As well as the centralized policy management capability ensures that centrally we are able to push the necessary policies across your different office locations, as well as where the other deployments are carried out. And finally, if you look at, we have a huge marketplace of API integration capabilities available, where there are third-party APIs that you could avail of to leverage on the wireless infrastructure that we have deployed. In terms of value-added services is where we would like to then focus, where we would look at offering guest Wi-Fi services for retail customers, for hospitality solutions, wherein we could have SMS-based, OTP-based authentication or a social media-based authentication capability brought forward. In addition to that is where we would look at providing capabilities of analytics, which we will talk more about in the coming slide. So just before that, we would like to take a pause over here and get your understanding in how you would like to have your wireless network connectivity being used for. Would you want to use it for connectivity where your employees are networking? Or would you want to use it for your machine-to-machine connectivity where your POS terminals, your laptops, and other devices, smart displays are being connected? Or would you want to use it for the purpose of connecting or providing guest Wi-Fi services for your end customers who would be visiting your premises? Do let us know which is the one that you see as the most probable use case for the wireless deployment.
Well, participants, we have about 60 seconds. You may cast in your polls in the Q&A section right below. We've got four options, and the question is, what are the use cases for which you predominantly want wireless connectivity? Employee networking, machine networking, customer networking, or all of the above? We really want to know your views and opinion on this same. It helps us understand the customer point of view better. So type in your answers.
So Glenvina, have you got the responses?
Well, a couple of more seconds to go. All right, we have the poll results here. So employee
Right.
networking is about 6%, machine networking is about 9%, customer networking hasn't gotten any percent. However, all of the above has been voted by 63.6%. That's a major answer going in over there in support of all of the above. That is, our customers, our audiences want it for employee networking, machine networking, as well as customer networking.
Thank you, Levina. And in fact, that is the very important point. And as you know, the insights that you have provided, it becomes very important for us to pause and understand that today, in the wireless networking domain, when we are looking at connectivity, it's not only one kind of a use case. And that's where we are looking at multiple use cases, multiple kind of traffic profiles that come into play. Let's quickly just have a look at in terms of what are the use cases that we can solve with the Wi-Fi solutions that we bring. The first area of focus would be healthcare industry. Healthcare industry is one area where you would have requirements for the employees having their Wi-Fi. You would have critical machines running on a different Wi-Fi network, as well as guest Wi-Fis who would be visiting over there for the patients. In addition to that, there are certain value-added services that we will talk about when we get further into it. Then we see in terms of banking applications and the banking sector, where it comes to bank branches, where you would be offering Wi-Fi solutions. And that Wi-Fi solutions, again, would be for your employees, would be for your guests, as well as for certain smart banking applications, smart displays that you would want to be deploying at that location, including cameras for client identification and profiling. Coming to manufacturing, manufacturing has a plethora of use cases, especially with the smart factory concept coming into play. Industry 4.0 applications are huge, and we will talk about it shortly. Finally, we come to retail and hospitality, and that's where you would see in terms of use cases coming with respect to smart retail capability being provided, and we'll again further talk about that. So therefore, from a user experience perspective, what we would be looking at creating a bespoke experience for the guest users who would be logging in to different authentication portals possible. Employees could be logged in through the Active Directory that the enterprise would be having and the integration with that and ensure the ease of access to it. So from a roaming perspective, if a particular user is moving from one office location to the other office location, the access to the Wi-Fi network would be very seamless. If you look at operational efficiencies that we would be looking at is how would we be able to provide a unified LAN and WAN environment with the platform that we are deploying, along with the LAN policies that we would be deploying. We would also be able to manage the WAN policies through the SD-WAN setup being done. And that is where you would be able to offer a more unified policy management across the LAN and WAN domain. In terms of smart applications, if we go to see, we will go more about it in the next slide. So let's go to retail. And retail is here, we are showing a snapshot in terms of what could be the potential use case where you could use the wireless network and where the Wi-Fi network would be the basic infrastructure on top of which you could run your applications. Now, first application that we could look at is in terms of the store navigation. If you really want to know in terms of how many users or how many customers visit your store, at what time of the day they visit your stores, where is the maximum number of footfalls taking place, how many are your repeat customers that are taking place. That is where you would be able to use the navigation analytics capabilities that Wi-Fi would be able to provide. The other would be with respect to the smart displays that would be present, the interactive displays that would be present, which would be again wired through the wireless network. And then we would also be having certain IoT sensors like temperature sensors, smart lighting solutions, which can provide connectivity to your cloud applications through the wireless network. Broadly speaking, if you go to see in terms of how that would translate into business analytics, is you would be identifying and recording what your visitors and customers' behavior would be. And basis those behaviors that you would be recording, you would be able to anticipate their needs. And basis the needs that you would be anticipating, you would be able to then accordingly appropriately engage with them and convert more customers and therefore provide more top line revenue to your businesses. In terms of which aisle in a large format store is being more visited, would make you accordingly plan and design how you would want your store layout to be carried out. These are some of the very interesting analytics and location based services that we can offer, we can build on top of the Wi-Fi platform. The next solution that comes is with respect to manufacturing. Now, manufacturing has a multitude of requirements that come into play. One area that comes into play is the machine-to-machine connectivity, and that's where the IoT integration takes place. You would be having IoT sensors which would be mounted on your machines, which would be mounted in your factory workplaces. They need to talk back to your cloud applications where the analysis would be carried out. And that's where, for the smart assembly line units, the integration of the IoT sensors with the Wi-Fi network and to the cloud application is where the wireless solution would be providing. Secondly, with respect to AR, VR based applications coming into the factory workspace, it becomes more crucial that you are able to get access to high throughput connectivity as well as low latency connectivity. And that's where Wi-Fi 6 will play a very important role. Finally, when it comes to hospitality, again, there are some very interesting applications that you could have. You could have a navigation map created on your app, which could be your hospitality app, on which would again be using the Wi-Fi 6 location-based features to help your guests track to the nearest room using the indoor navigation capability and the Bluetooth beacon-based solutions that can be offered. You could have a keyless entry into the room created through the BLE proximity-based solution, in-room controls through the iPad or a tablet-based solution, which again would be connected to the Wi-Fi, and then help you to push specific targeted marketing to your customers. And hence you would be able to also then get analytics in terms of what your customer movement has been through the premise for you to then accordingly understand in terms of customer behavioral patterns to accordingly plan out your business needs. Right. So it comes next back to poll time. Which Wi-Fi solutions that you see, the deployment models that you would like to adopt? Would you like to prefer to acquire components, implement it, and manage in-house? Would you prefer availing components and implementing the services only while managing it in-house? Or would you like to ensure an end-to-end solution where a managed services partner would do the end-to-end work with respect to sizing, scoping, deployment, as well as the entire lifecycle management? Please input your answers on that.
Once again, a humble request to all our guests and audiences. There is a question which is, which Wi-Fi solutions deployment models would you like to adopt? And you've got three options: prefer to acquire components and implement and manage in-house, prefer wheeling components and implementation services only while manage in-house. And the third option is prefer to buy end-to-end solutions, including components, services, lifecycle management, and value-added services. We have only 60. Please cast in your answers as soon as possible. Last couple of seconds to go. We want everybody to participate. This is a way for us to understand the customer mindset and what exactly do the end customer need. All right, the results are here. And out of the three options, option A has received 3.4 votes, option B has received 13.8% votes, and option C, that is prefer to buy end-to-end solutions, including component services, lifecycle management, and value-added services, have received the majority of votes, that is 69%. Well, Mr. Jamsheed, what is your take on this?
Yeah, thank you, Lenina. And that is what we actually see, and that is where we come into place with respect to Tata Communications as a managed services provider who can provide an end-to-end service. Today, Tata Communications is a global market leader when it comes to enterprise services. We have been market leaders in India as well as in some key global markets. And we have shown that market leadership with respect to providing end-to-end managed capabilities when it comes to our innovative WAN offerings, our SD-WAN offerings, bundled with our network services. Uh, to that testament, we are already part of the leadership quadrant in the Magic Quadrant of Gartner for network services, and we continue to do it on a year-on-year basis. Now, if we look at it from a perspective and moving beyond in terms of what is the value add that a managed service provider brings to the table, is that first of all, we have the right skill sets to look at deploying solutions, which could be as simple as a single location solution, ranging up to a multi-solution or a multi-location solutions being deployed. Furthermore, if you look at it, the lines between LAN networks, WAN networks are blurring. You are looking at policies which can be managed in a very unified manner right across your WAN networks as well as the enterprise LAN. And that's where the integrated approach, right, with the mobility, security, cloud practices that we bring to the table makes a lot of difference, where we are able to stitch the end-to-end solution comprising of multiple components, multiple OEMs, depending on the stacks, and provide a full stack solution for you. We have the necessary certified skills, and we have the globally available scalable staff ecosystem with respect to our 24/7 NOC, as well as field support in the relevant markets where we operate. In terms of the business benefits that you get, is you are able to your business is able to minimize the risk and associated costs. Instead of you deploying dedicated IT resources, IT support resources at each of your locations to manage your wireless and LAN networks, it can be managed centrally through the cloud managed platform that we operate, with very limited intervention required of field support wherever if need be. But that literally minimizes the need with respect to physical field support that is there. Secondly, is you are able to get a very consolidated view of services with a single dashboard, where you are able to review the policies, you are able to review the traffic metrics, the performance, the network performance, all on a single dashboard across the LAN as well as the WAN space. And thirdly, we are able to then deploy globally wherever required. We have the necessary partner ecosystem in place that ensures that whichever location that you would be present, we are able to reach out to you and connect and provide the services. Uh, Fourthly, it's very crucial is that in terms of the policy management, the network upgrades that are taking place in terms of the software upgrades, all of those headaches are managed by the managed services provider. And hence, we are able to focus on ensuring that you are just focused on your end user experience as well as managing your end customers per se. The architecture that is deployed is very scalable in nature. Something that is deployed initially for few locations can be ramped up to more number of locations. The use cases can be also modified based the requirements that you have. And therefore, collectively, if you look at it from a managed services model, as most of you have felt that is the way to go when it comes to deploying your complete managed wireless and LAN solution. With that, I would now like to hand it over to George from Cisco, and George will give us some updates with respect to the Meraki platform that we at Tata Communications are jointly working with Cisco to offer. Over to you, George.
Thank you so much, Jamsheed. I just have to say, I don't know which which one of these I was more excited about, the Formula One or all of that delicious chocolate and pretzels. But I think it is a very good, shows the very good speed that Tata is trying to move to market, especially because you have a close connection with cars at Tata, and also just in the combination of doing salty and sweet, two different things to help our customers have the best outcome for their individual businesses. So I really I like this graphics very much. So just to give a brief introduction, if anyone has joined since the beginning, I lead the systems engineering team for all of our partners, service provider across all of APJC, including India. So I have a relatively small team, but have been with Cisco for the better part of a decade, working on the Meraki product specifically. So what I want to do today is, rather than talk specifically about the Meraki product, I want to talk about some actual real world examples of how the product has been deployed across the globe and successfully moved, what Jamsheed said, forward in terms of better Wi-Fi, just a better connectivity experience for customers and for end users as well. So the first one I want to talk about here is Digital India. So of course, hopefully everyone is relatively familiar with this, but this was a heavily invested in initiative by the Indian government. We actually have deployed over 30,000 access points. And one of the main concerns they had was power efficiency, because many of these APs are actually required to run on solar energy. And in addition to that, not all of them have wired connectivity back to a data source. So they require mesh technology to work together automatically. And so with Digital India, we were able to deploy these APs. Some of them did have data connections, but if we needed to go a couple of different hops to get, we only had power, we didn't have data in a specific area that we were trying to provide connectivity for, we were able to do that. So in the future, we're looking more and more to deploy across further than the 1,000 villages that we deployed with Digital India. We're really happy about this because this was a great success for the team, but also there's a humanitarian element to it as well. So we're providing access to critical services that these remote villages need to get the resources just to live on a day-to-day basis and to learn and to work as well. So Digital India was a great initiative, and again, a really wide deployment, over 30,000 access points. Moving into the education vertical and out of APJC, this is a South America, Argentina deployment. In education, we identified with a partner there, similar to what Tata might be able to do in across the globe. We identified a real issue in provisioning time for schools across Argentina. And so they have since deployed, and I wish I had a picture here of this. You should see it. It's like 20 semi trucks, like big containers on the back of semi trucks with Meraki equipment to be deployed for the Ministry of Education in across the entire country of Argentina. So all public schools now have Meraki MX, which is our security appliance that also includes, firewall rules, group policy enforcement, being able to make sure that students aren't going to bad websites, content filtering and all of that natively integrated, as well as switching to support the MR access points that are deployed for wireless connectivity across all of their schools. And so, we were absolutely the best candidate in this deal. And I'm not going to say it was an easy win because, the salesperson responsible would probably not be very happy with me if I said that. But it was a very natural choice to reduce the amount of time to deployment from the other competitors out there that might have, a week or 2 weeks long deployment stage. We're able to deploy to all schools and also all work from or learn from home initiatives within just a matter of days, which was a really, really important thing as the Ministry of Education started to bring on a more e-learning based environment for their students. Now, moving on to retail industry. This is, some of you may recognize the picture here, but we had a relatively large deal with multi-site pharmacy across all of India. And one of their big challenges was that they wanted to move to a fully managed model where the partner actually handled everything for them. Now, for many other vendors, that's very challenging to do because you need to have on-site servers that they have access to. You need to have remote access to those servers for monitoring tools and so on and so forth. But because Cisco Meraki is able to be completely cloud-based, that managed service partner was able to actually take on this pharmacy and have a real-time knock fully through the cloud where they got alerts, they were up to date on what was happening, and they're able to also scale up from just a couple of test sites all the way to their full infrastructure. They also leverage not just wireless, but also our Z3 SD-WAN technology to allow them to have multi-site connectivity and also connectivity back to their data center, which was hosting a virtual MX, which is our virtual VPN concentrator that's running in a container in their data center. This is 400 locations. We're going to be seeing a lot more expansion in the future. And in addition to just the networking stack, the WAN and switching and wireless, they're going to be looking at MV, which is our camera solution as well. Now, this is one that is specific actually to Tata. So Tata Chroma, large scale deployment of 200 different stores. They were looking at trying to solve a productivity issue with the pandemic. So they were not really sure what the demand was going to be for computing devices, but IT was tasked to basically make sure that all of those stores had high quality Wi-Fi, so that whether you're an internal employee or whether you're a visitor, most importantly, your point of sale devices are functioning properly. And so with a combination of Meraki Wi-Fi 6 devices, as well as some of our Wi-Fi 5 devices, they're able to build a dynamic network that could adjust to how many people were actually in the store and also adjust to the employees as well. And so going beyond that, we were really happy to hear from them. It's a very simple quote, but we were really happy to hear from Infinity Retail, Tata Chroma, that the IT managers are looking at and exploring the full stack of Meraki, not just wireless, but also switching, security appliances, and so on and so forth. So we had a really good success there, and I think, I would encourage everyone on the call here to ask your Tata representative about this deal, if it sounds interesting, because there's a lot of story here, and I think that Tata is going to be able to give you a really, really great, kind of compelling understanding of why it makes sense to go with Meraki for a type of deployment like this. Now, again, in retail, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but we do have one of the most successful stories from Cisco Meraki when it comes to retail spaces and malls. And a lot of that has to do with analytics. So we'll have an opportunity in just a moment to look at some of the analytics that are available through the Meraki dashboard. But this is one particular mall across APJC, across APAC, I should say. And their main focus is on analytics. So they have MR access points from Meraki. They have MV cameras from Meraki. And then they also leverage a third-party ecosystem partner, a technology partner, to better understand the movement of people, and also if people are using PPE. Are people wearing masks? Are they congregating too close to each other in a physical space in a mall? We use Meraki technology to provide all the data, to supply that data engine that allows for the security team at those malls to understand how people are moving around, and also allows for them to, give that data to the marketing teams as well, and understand what the most busy areas are, what the most busy stores are, and where the traffic is moving in the physical space. In addition, they also do allow for visibility through a splash page, and understand who people are. So if someone wants to log on to guest Wi-Fi, they put in their phone number, and essentially they're allowed to get access to Wi-Fi. And then from there, that is built into a database so that these malls can understand who their customers are. So I want to make sure I'm cognizant of time here. Now, we also have a lot of hospitality customers. This is primarily in the Wi-Fi side, but also supported by switching as well. All of this particular hotel group is supported 100% through a managed service agreement. So the hotel themselves, they have very limited on-site IT, but someone like Tata came in, brought them Meraki, said, here, we're going to give you a summary report of what's going on. We're going to allow you some control, but ultimately, we're going to handle all of the hard stuff for this particular hotel group in India. They additionally, because every room was a smart room, they had iPads in every single room, and each of those iPads was enrolled in the Cisco Meraki product Systems Manager, which is endpoint management. So they could control which applications were available, and also enforce policies on those in-room devices, so that no one could do anything, out of, off brand. In manufacturing, we have a number of different customers in terms of the on-site operations, as well as remote operations as well. So that's primarily, you've heard me talk about our MR access points, our MX for SD-WAN and SASE as well. So, we have a very large manufacturer in Western Australia that leverages Meraki across the entire province. The last one, and this is close to India, Narayana Health has completely transformed their business practices, their healthcare practices to be 100% digital. So all their medical records, all their interactions when you go in to check in to this, to a hospital, you enter in your information on your phone or on an iPad, and all your medical records are tracked, and that's all supported by Cisco Meraki access points with Wi-Fi 6, as well as our switches that support the 14 hospitals that currently are deployed with Meraki. Just speaking to the kind of quick deployment that Meraki can do and the fast provisioning, we also did deploy a full stack, so access point switches and SD-WAN in a matter of 2 days to hospitals during the beginning of the pandemic. And it was something where, we had the local healthcare workers were able to actually, it's so simple to deploy Meraki, and especially if you have a partner like Tata, it's so simple that it's literally all you need to do is just plug things in and it just works. And so with Tata, like managing all of that on the back end, and it's all going through the cloud, you're able to deploy, a high risk area in just a matter of a couple of hours. And so I'm not saying that every single deployment is going to be, high risk like in Wuhan, but the point is, it's just very simple, and Tata's operations are made much more simple and much quicker, which makes it for you as a customer much quicker as well, using Cisco Meraki, because it's all cloud managed, very easy to use. All right, so with that, and I just want to be cognizant of time here. We will bring up the poll again. So where IT technology can help you and your users, is it Wi-Fi 6? And this is not a quiz. This is just an opinion poll. Is it Wi-Fi 6 and super fast connectivity for people on site? Is it control over work from home endpoint devices? Is it creating an at-home network that emulates or operates just like you're at the office? Or is it monitoring physical spaces so you can ensure people are following social distancing and occupancy rules? Do we launch? Oh yeah, good. We launched the poll.
Well, the poll is going to be open only for a couple of seconds more. We encourage all our participants to cast in their polls as quickly as possible. The question is, where can IT technology help you and your users right now? And you have 4 options. It's a survey poll that we want to understand your mindset, your requirement from Tata Communications end. So we request all the participants, including speakers, once to cast in your poll. Last few seconds to go. Okay, then we have the results. So we've got a mixed opinion on the options. The question that was asked is, where can IT technology help you and your users right now? So we've got about 41% for Wi-Fi 6 and super fast connectivity for on-site users, about 9% for control over work from home endpoint devices, around 13.6% for creating an at-home network that operates just like you are at the office, and about 22% for the last option, that is monitoring physical spaces, so you can ensure people are following social distancing and occupancy rules. So I think the clear takeaway over here is Wi-Fi 6 and super fast connectivity for on-site users. Well, Mr. Dorsey, what is your
Definitely. Yeah, I think all of them are important, of course, and as the results reflect, there's definitely a mixed bag. So I would encourage everyone who, depending on how you responded, to reach out to your Tata representative and talk about that concern for your business, so that they can help you, help direct you in the right place to solve for that particular issue. So thank you so much. So I'm gonna, I know we're running some short on time, so I want to do a quick demo here, just to show people who haven't experienced the Meraki dashboard before, a quick view on what it looks like. So if you haven't logged into the Meraki dashboard before, the first thing you're going to see is all of your different sites and the status for all of those different sites. And so this allows you to get a really, really easy view of how everything is performing. And I want to say that this is especially important now that people are working from home, because you may have an individual, who's connected to, a different ISP, maybe not Tata, maybe not working with them they have a personal connection for their unit at home. So it's really important to be able to see globally or countrywide the status of all of your different clients. Now, as a IT manager, another thing you might care about, beyond just if that site or that home user is online, or if that particular location is online, is the performance of the ISP as well. So with what we call Meraki WAN Health, it allows you to see all of the different locations and all of the different ISPs that a particular user might have. It allows you to see, availability over time, total usage, packet loss, things like that. But most importantly, it allows you to see, is this particular site online or is it offline? So that's like very basic from a usability perspective, and just making sure that now that we're all working remotely, that we're able to see just uptime for all of our different locations. Now, in addition to that, many of our users are going to be leveraging cloud applications, so such as email, Office 365, Box, Gmail, and the rest. So with Cisco Meraki, it actually allows you to see by different location. So say London, San Francisco, and then our other London location, as well as Sydney. It allows you to see the performance of your local LAN as well as the WAN, so your ISP performance, and then also the performance of the cloud provider. So let's say a data center from Microsoft goes down, for example, or for some reason has degraded performance. You're able to actually see that right in the Meraki dashboard. Now, kind of switching gears, still on the analytics perspective, but switching gears a little bit, Meraki access points, because we do have a third radio built into those APs, we're able to see the overall traffic in a specific area or on a specific site. So we can select a specific site. We can see over time proximity, which is, how many people are actually walking by versus, actually going into the store. Engagement, how long those people are in the store, and then loyalty as well. And all of this is available via our API. So if you want to ingest it into your own systems or through a third party, you're able to do that as well. And then finally, from a where is it here? From a location perspective, If you want to see over time, which stores people are actually tracking through, you're able to see a live location heat map. And again, all these coordinates are available via the API as well. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how Tata and others can help you, we do have our developer portal that allows you to see some of the integrations through our API in what we call our marketplace. So you can search for all these different types of solutions, but I'm going to guess Tata is going to be able to build it for you and help you out. I would encourage you to reach out to your Tata representative to chat about that. So just because of time, I'm going to go ahead and skip here to our Q&A and key takeaways. Please, make sure you understand the value of data and the value of Meraki. Investigate the full Cisco Meraki platform beyond just the wireless switching and SD-WAN. Look at cameras and our sensors as well. Be creative, work with Tata to create something unique that is fit for your business. So with that, I'll go ahead and just remind everyone, Tata is the best consistent global process leading service provider. They'll align to your business model, and they have deep skills, whether it's development, networking, IT, no matter what it is, they're the partner for you. And so with that, I'll hand it back to the Tata team to finish us out here.
Thank you, George. And I'll let Levina, yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Dorsey, for taking us to the live demo, as well as taking us through the case studies of various industries. I'm sure there has been a lot of key takeaways for all our participants. Also taking a moment to thank Mr. Sukhadwala for that wonderful session and explaining all about system security and cloud networking. Well, now moving on. Like Mr. Dorsey said, we will be taking a couple of Q&As that each one of you have mentioned in the Q&A section. Oh, there have been quite a few. Well, more the merrier is what they say. Since we've paucity of time, we'll take a couple of questions quickly. The first question we have is, Wi-Fi comes at the crossroads of multiple technologies converging to result in a diverse and complex hybrid IT environment. How do you think this can help manage in this scenario?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Levina. Basically, yes, Wi-Fi has now become, and if you go to see the lines between the WAN network and the LAN network are blurring, where the enterprise applications are directly seeking end user or end device level of visibility. And that's where the policy management comes into play, where we are able to offer unified policy management across the LAN and WAN domain. And that's where a service provider like Tata Communications can provide a complete unified service offering, which could be spanning, multiple delivery models, as well as stacks, to create a full stack integrated solution for you.
Well, that's a really great answer. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We have another question, which is, how should anyone choose among the multiple managed SPs?
The most important thing while choosing a SP is in terms of what are their capabilities. And when we look at capabilities in terms of global capabilities, right, and what are the best practices that they bring to table in terms of the kind of consistent service and level of offering that they can provide across multiple geographies. So today, if we go to see in terms of capabilities, your delivery capabilities are very crucial, right? If you have to grow your business, it's important that you are able to have a service provider who can support the rapid deployment model. Skilled with Tata Communications, extensive, managed services capability, as well as the cloud managed model that is being utilized, it becomes very easy for us to scale up. The other most important aspect is that given that we are present across multiple key geographies, we are able to also provide local language support specific to in-region requirements to address the nuances that are there with respect to the legal and regulatory requirements as well. So therefore, you need a service provider who is able to take care of all the nuances that comes with respect to deploying as well as running the services for you.
I
Absolutely.
think I
Yeah.
think I'll also just add to that. Like you really want to pick a service provider that is investing in the future, and is very keen on understanding what's going to be like the customer need in 5 years. Right. So ask your SP, if you're not already working with Tata, ask Tata, what are they going to be doing in 5 years, right? And if the service provider doesn't have an answer to that question, and they're still sticking to like an MPLS world, and they're still sticking to an old school Wi-Fi on-premises type environment, then maybe they're not the service provider for you.
Well, that was a great input, Mr. Dorsey, I must say. I think cloud management has become very essential, especially in these times wherein everybody is working remotely. And with that, the added feature of, converting it into local language makes it really easy and user friendly, is what I believe. The next question we have is, why should anybody opt for a manage SP instead of creating an in-house team?
In fact, one of the poll results which came out, which clearly showed the preference from DIY models to moving towards more towards, end-to-end managed services models. And there are reasons behind that, right? So first of all, you get a single point of contact. You really do not need to delve into the sourcing, the design, the evaluation, the deployment, as well as the management part of it. All of it is managed by a single services provider for you, right from inception to deployment to the entire life cycle management. Secondly, what is, as George mentioned, is crucial is that what is the value the service provider can bring in terms of beyond the basic infrastructure deployment. And that's where we at Tata Communications are focusing on the application stack, where basis the technology capability that Wi-Fi 6 and a cloud managed platform provides, as well as with respect to third-party APIs that are available, what are the kind of value-added services in terms of analytics, motion studies, location-based solutions, guest authentication solutions? These are some of the capabilities and end-user applications that we bring to the table. And it's very crucial that when you are going on a managed services model, we take all the headache of ensuring the interworking that is taking place between the various modules to create a complete end-to-end seamless solution. And that's the value that a managed services provider would be providing. The third most important thing is with respect to cost. Given that we operate on a cloud managed centralized model, it makes us easier for us to scale up our competencies and capabilities to cater to the kind of requirements that enterprises like yourselves would have. Instead of you needing to, invest in creating in-house competencies, all of that is outsourced to the service provider who takes care of it all. So with all these aspects coming into play, it becomes all the more important for enterprises to really evaluate and introspect whether they would want to go through the hassles of creating, deploying, and managing these solutions themselves, or would rather give it to a managed services provider who has got the necessary expertise and capability to offer it to you on the table.
Yeah, very.
I think we both agree. We both agree, right? Like, if I was in the shoes of an IT manager or a network manager, my question would be, can you just make it work and then just tell me if it's working or not? Like that would be my two requests, right? And I think Tata brings that in spades, right? You guys can absolutely deliver on that request for any IT manager or any network manager.
Yep. Thank you, George.
So Dorsey, I think you have quite a witty take on that, I must say. And to what Mr. Sukhadwala added, you can focus more on your core business and outsource all of these things to an establishment which is already doing this in the field. And as we all know, Tatas have been pioneers in the field of technology, infrastructure, and providing really great services. So thank you so much, Mr. Sukhadwala and Mr. Dorsey. Those were all the questions that we had. Is there anything else that you would like to add to everything that has been covered? Anything else apart from this would you like to share with us?
I think this is just a journey in terms of the technology evolution that takes place. We look forward to partnering with you to help you come up with solutions to cater to your workplace and business demands. And the benefit of the wireless solutions is the value added services, the API integrations, and the application stacks that we can create on top of it. And therefore, we really look forward to partnering with you to help create solutions for your users. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's hope for an efficient and an effective wireless solutions to come so that our organization and all the activities run really smoothly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to the end of this virtual conference. Today's session wouldn't have been possible without the active participation of all our esteemed speakers and certainly our participants. Thank you to each and every one of you for your precious time and for being a part of this live webinar. A special thanks to Tata Communications and Cisco for their incredible support to this initiative, without whom this conference wouldn't have been possible. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Please take care and make sure you're staying safe always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.